So you have a J body like this Mirada, right? So you want to put super stock springs on it, but they're not long enough. Hence, super stock springs. You gotta buy these bad boys. Now, you can see there's a line scribed in this thing, right? This is like F and J body. Roger knows more about these than I do, so if I say something wrong, correct me, but I think I'm gonna be on the right track here. Anyway, the other one that I'm gonna show you on the car over there, we had to cut this right where that score is at, because there's a dog leg, it comes down, and there are your lines, because it's not made for this. So as you can see, we had to cut it to clear. Now you can see how close the lines are, they're not touching. So what I think I'm gonna do right here is I'm going to take like a piece of heater core hose and wrap it around the line. It's not touching, but that way we have a buffer in between that and the line. Anyway, I mean, all these are probably gonna get replaced here eventually anyway. They got undercoating all over them, they're pretty old. So now we're gonna try to hang some springs. Well, we got these hangers here, got the springs, and before you throw these in here, it's always a good idea to throw some grease on them. One, they go in a lot easier, and two, is just gonna lubricate the bushing a little bit better. And it likes to stick. The grease will stay with it, something like WD-40, something like that. Probably not a good idea. So, step one and step two complete. Ratchet strap on that, the jack stand, so that thing is a roll forward. Safety. So the rear end had these big holes, so this isn't ground down yet, but I had to make steel, basically a grommet, I guess you could say. This one's done and in, so that way, looks pretty decent, so that way it'll index on this pin right here. So that took forever, and that one's on its way, but yeah, I had to weld it, make it out of some tube and a washer, basically center it up, and there it is. I think that was the most time-consuming part of the whole swap, was getting these in there as such. Let me focus on that. So you had to take up that space, drill out the hole for the exact size for the spring to index on right here. And I had to do it to both sides, but they're both done now. So it should fly together now. All right, it is installed. Roger is back from work. The only thing that's left is we looked at A body shocks. They're not long enough. We need B body ones. My dad went out, he's picking those up. Roger has been angling in another axle, which I bought studs for earlier. And then he's gonna finish this up. I'm gonna go home and get sleep. I need to get at least 2 hours of sleep before I go to the track, so. All right, I'm sleepy.
917 mile an hour.
After installing the super stock springs, Roger was able to pull a 14.5 out of his car. That seems pretty good for a bone stock 318 Magnum, but it gets better. Whenever Roger got back to the pits, he checked his throttle linkage and realized that only 2 of his barrels on his 4-barrel carburetor were opening. The secondaries were barely cracking open. So now, after we fix that issue, it's time to go back to the track and see if we can pull a 13 out of this car. If we can get into the 13s, I'm confident that we're going to be able to go deep into them after the following modifications. He plans on putting a cam and a high stall converter in the car along with a shift kit of the transmission. The transmission being bone stock also hinders the performance of the vehicle, so I'm looking forward to doing the upgrades and seeing what kind of times we can pull out of this budget-built muscle car.